Right, 25 December 2024, and I would like to wish all of you the best Christmas ever. This is my first time to ever do a live broadcast on Christmas Day. Normally, I'll be traveling and walking at a beach somewhere, but this year I've done too much traveling during the year, and I've decided a break or a rest. So, in depth look at what is happening in Botswana, so in Zimbabwe and Mozambique. So the region has been destabilized by Mnangagwa ever since he came in and put out a report that the election in Zimbabwe was rigged. So after that, Mnangagwa decided to go on a region-wide or destabilization program around the neighbors, which is mainly Botswana, Zambia, Malawi, and recently in Namibia. But what has happened right now is that there has been a massive push in Botswana to get rid of state agents or CIOs. So over the past week, a lot of Zimbabwe intelligence who were in Botswana since the elections have been thrown out or have had to leave in a half or very, very quickly. And this started earlier last week when a lot of these agents ran away, fearing that they were going to be deported. And unfortunately, one of the people that was made to leave Botswana was our friend Tinashe Jonas. He was also one of the people that were thrown out of Botswana. So they had to run from Botswana and go somewhere else. So I do not know where Tinashe Jonas is, but he was also forced to leave Botswana. So when he first of all advised me of what was happening in Botswana, that was the time when he was actually moving out of Botswana. And he made certain accusations, obviously, against Duma Boko and claimed that he had done some work for the umbrella for democratic change and they did not pay him. So at first, I thought this was just something stupid, but I realized that this was actually something more widespread. So I'm going to display now one short message which was sent to me here by Tinashe Jonas, and I'm obviously going to challenge him on his allegations against Duma Boko. So some of the things that Jonas said here is that, as you're aware, I was in Botswana. I did work for the opposition party, UDC, led by Duma Boko. They promised me financial rewards and they never did. I even suspect Boko worked with Masisi to destroy BDP party formed by Ian Kama's father. So this is crazy. From Tinashe Jonas accusing Duma Boko of actually working with Masisi and also of not paying him for the work that they've done. You've seen, as I said last night, Talent Rusere here making the same allegations. And my belief is that there was actually a bigger number of agents, as already said earlier this year, that when an election is taking place in one of the southern countries, then ZANU-PF dispatches a number of spies to go into that country to help the ruling party. So the allegation by Jonas is that if Duma Boko was genuine, he was not going to keep the head of intelligence of the former government, because as soon as someone gets into office, they remove the head of intelligence of that former government. So he is saying here that why did Duma Boko keep the head of intelligence of the previous government of Masisi? So I guess that is also connected to the unhappiness about not being paid. Like Tinashe Jonas said here that he did work for the umbrella democratic change. I advised you guys that Jonas helped the guys in Botswana. He also helped the guys in Namibia to do their anti-rigging strategies. So I guess this is part of the unhappiness. Similar allegations are being made here by Talent Rusere, who is claiming that Duma Boko threw him out of Botswana, and this after he assisted him to fight the rigging strategies of the previous government of Masisi working with Mnangagwa. I do not believe that these guys are telling the truth about Duma Boko, as I said last night, but I believe that the government of Botswana is cleaning up the spies who were operating inside Botswana. There is a lot of the spies from ZANU-PF that were operating within Botswana, and these are now being thrown out. And I guess that most of them are going to be unhappy. Some of them are going to say, we're actually not spies. We are working with the government of, we're helping you to deal with ZANU-PF. But I guess the policy of Botswana now is every ZANU-PF spy, every Zimbabwean spy, no matter you're helping or not, you must leave the country. You must go out of Botswana. So very interesting. And this happening on Christmas Day. We're going to see a lot of drama in Botswana. Botswana, Mozambique, Namibia, all these countries have been destabilized by the ZANU-PF influence. Mnangagwa going around planting spies in different countries to interfere with the elections of those countries. So let's see how it goes. Zimbabwean spies are being thrown out. Botswana has thrown out quite a number of them. Let's see what happens. The UK has also thrown out a number of Zimbabwean spies operating there, spying on locals. And as you know, in South Africa here, Zimbabwe is with the biggest spying operation operating inside South Africa. Hundreds and hundreds of Zimbabwean spies operating here, following around activists from Zimbabwe, prominent people from Zimbabwe. They're being followed around by the spies. But in Botswana, this became a big problem because they actually set up an operation center during the time of the elections of Botswana. So I think I've covered this. I'm going to have a shorter session today. Now let's go to what is happening in Mozambique. So Mozambique is on fire right now. That country is facing demonstrations since the 9th of October, and the opposition party has formed a coalition, and that coalition is called CAD or CTA. So that is Coalition of Democratic Alliance of Mozambique. They are now demanding a transitional government. They are also demanding that there will be a national dialogue. So Solomon Mandlane yesterday explained what is required in Mozambique. So I want to show you what he says here. He spoke to Newsroom Africa. So I'm going to show you what he said. He says the Constitutional Council was wrong in saying that the election was won by Daniel Chapo. This is because they already admitted that there were discrepancies, and there was only 3 things that they should have done. And let me show you the 3 things that it says here.
And when there are discrepancies, that means the Electoral Commission didn't do its work well. So what we were expecting from a body like the Constitutional Council was to invalidate the elections, was to maybe call for a recount of the votes, or to send people back to the polling station to revote. Those are the only things that they could have done. But now,
right, so you can clearly see that there is a problem. The Constitutional Council of Mozambique, what they did is after they admitted that there were issues with the election, they then still handed the election back to Daniel Chapo of Frelimo. And what Podemos and the other groups, then Lorenzo Mondlane, are saying is that the Constitutional Council of Mozambique does not have such a right to do what they did, which is to negotiate the outcome of the election. They should have done what the law allows them to do, which is to order a rerun, to cancel the election, or to call for something else, but not to give the election to Daniel Chapo. So a recount would have been better, or a rerun of the election would have been better. However, that is failed, and it's clear that there's not going to be a rerun in Mozambique. The situation there does not allow a new election to take place. So they're calling for the transitional government, and they're also calling possibly for a government of national unity there in Mozambique. And as I said yesterday, the former president of Mozambique, Filipe Nyusi, is currently in negotiations with Venancio Mondlane. They've made contact. I do not know the extent of the contact between Venancio Mondlane and the president, or the former president of Mozambique, Filipe Nyusi. So as it stands right now, the president of Mozambique is Daniel Chapo, but he is not in control of the government. So Daniel Chapo is not in control of the government, and there are fears that there will be what we call a civil war in Mozambique. And if that happens, it will totally destabilize the region. It will destabilize South Africa. South Africa relies heavily on Mozambique for access to the sea. They have their own sea, but there's a lot of disorder at Durban. That is why they rely on Mozambique. Mozambique has a better infrastructure at the coast than South Africa. And the truckers are going to Mozambique because it's faster. And the truckers have issued a statement last night saying they want Mnangagwa to step down. So guys, can you believe what's happening? Everyone has realized that Mnangagwa is the problem in this region. And they're calling for Mnangagwa to step down. So they want him to step down, saying he's causing all this disruption in the region. So yesterday, the group of truckers, or the body representing truckers in Southern Africa, has also gone on Newsroom Africa, and Umuzo Mukwati, he said Mnangagwa should step down. If he doesn't step down, they are going to close the borders of Mozambique, the embassies of Mozambique and the embassies of Zimbabwe. So that is crazy. Everyone naming Mnangagwa is the problem in this region. And I guess it's reasonable. It's reasonable to understand Mnangagwa is the problem. He is the SADC chair, and he's also responsible for rigging the election. So it's impossible to not say Mnangagwa is the problem in this region after what has happened. And I was hoping that I would see that video. In fact, let me get that video for you, where the trackers are saying Mnangagwa is the problem in this region and he should step down. So I want to quickly look at that video. So let's see if we can find that video for you, and why they say Mnangagwa should step down immediately. So I'm going to share my screen here. So let's go over here and see why they're saying Mnangagwa should step down. Mnangagwa Argurayanu Nenzara. So everyone is now agreed that the problem in our region is Mnangagwa. And I'm quickly trying to find that video here. And it seems like I'm somehow lost my video. While I'm speaking, I'll be trying to find that video. So let's get the video here.
You see, we try to speak, even to speak with our members. They are very scared to go to Mozambique because there is no guarantee that when you cross with your trucks, it will come back that truck. We are scared that issues such as arson may erupt. And that's why we are calling to say, to move the truck to Mananga. We warn that solution, it is not a permanent, because it shows that violation, brutal killing of opposition, they are part and parcel of the violation of human rights in our continent, which is unfair. That's why we're calling to say President Mnangagwa must step down as soon.
Right. So I think you've gotten the key point that I wanted to make, which is that the truckers and the bus operators in Southern Africa are calling for Mnangagwa to step down. They're saying Mnangagwa is the problem. He rigged the elections. He's using the army, and he's teaching all the other governments in this region to do the same. And therefore, Mnangagwa must step down. Mnangagwa Argurayanu Nenzara. Mnangagwa's activities in Zimbabwe are now spreading across the region. And these trackers are saying if Mnangagwa does not step down, they're going to go and close down the embassy of Zimbabwe. They're going to close down the embassy of South Africa, sorry, of Mozambique. So that is the embassy of Zimbabwe and the embassy of Mozambique in South Africa. They're going to close those embassies. Then I want to quickly look at the situation in sport. Benjani Marwari has written to Zifa to get an explanation on why he was excluded from the Zifa contest, presidential contest. He's saying he doesn't know. No one told him what happened, why he was excluded, and also, obviously, we know why Magaya was excluded. We know why Temba Mlisa was excluded, but there's no explanation on why Benjani, who was the front runner, was excluded. So he has written that letter, and let's see what happens. Let's see how they respond to that request for information by Benjani Marwari. Why was he stopped from contesting as the Zifa president? Very, very interesting activities taking place, probably a corrupt activity taking place during the Zifa elections. I now want to end with something very annoying to me. So yesterday, I told you that, guys, that I'm going to reveal pictures. So on my screen is an Uber driver. So Uber is operating here in South Africa, and I use Uber very extensively on doing my business. So yesterday, we had a very strange situation where we sent parcels around using Uber, and yesterday we had a parcel which we sent out, one of many parcels that we sent out through Uber. And the guy arrived and picked up the parcel. We paid him as usual through the Uber system. And funny enough, he did not arrive at the destination where we had said he must go and deliver the parcel. Not only that, we then called Uber to say, what's happening with this guy? He's called Tulani. What's happening with Tulani? He hasn't delivered our parcel. Unfortunately, Uber was not able to get hold of the guy. We were not able to get hold of the guy. And the whole situation went on for hours and hours while we were trying to track our parcel, which is very valuable. And eventually, Uber said they will take our number and give it to the guy so that he can call us. They gave the number to the guy. He did not call back. Then Uber called him, and then he says he does not know where the parcel is, and he doesn't have it. Now we said to Uber, okay, give us the parcel, our money back, because what did he courier? So there's something called Uber courier. What did he courier? Because we paid. And if we did not get our parcel, where is that parcel? And to our shock and horror, Uber says they are not responsible for what the drivers do. So if a driver takes a parcel from you on Uber courier, Uber cannot find that driver. They cannot do anything about it. The only thing that they can do is try to find the guy. And if the guy doesn't call you, you lose your parcel. So let me give you the context. Imagine if you've got a parcel worth 1 million and you give it to the Uber driver. If he takes away that parcel and goes away, Uber cannot assist you. They're saying it is your responsibility. You must go to court. So now they're saying we must go to court. And then they will release his details to us if there is a court order. Can you believe how crazy this situation is? That Uber is operating under these rules. That if one of their drivers does something, they cannot track that guy and force him to give back a parcel. And that is on Uber courier. So I believe that this guy is one of the guys who got on the Uber systems through corruption. So unfortunately for Uber, this situation is very bad. It means if something goes wrong with the Uber driver, you are basically by yourself. So this guy is, I've seen that he has changed his profile name. So if you look on my trip that I booked, it's no longer this guy. So there's something terribly wrong with the vetting system of Uber in South Africa. And these guys need to address the situation so that we don't have a big incident taking place regarding Uber. So I'm doing this because obviously I do have a platform and a lot of people can listen to me and can watch what I'm saying. So I think Uber needs to sort out their system in South Africa, root out and take out the undesirable characters who are on the Uber platform. The undesirable characters must go to other platforms, but Uber must be clean. They must keep Uber clean. They mustn't allow such characters on Uber, which must be a place where vetted people are. So if you're on the Uber platform, it should be safe. Imagine if you ask this guy to carry your kid somewhere or to carry your family somewhere and he does something, then Uber says you must go to court for you to get his details. So that is exactly what happened yesterday, where the crazy situation where an Uber driver picked up one of our parcels, went away and disappeared with it. And we can't find him, Uber can't find him. And the only thing that they can do is tell us to go and have open a court case. And funny enough, he says he doesn't know where the parcel is. But that was the only reason why we booked this guy. Do you know that in South Africa, people are ordering food and the Uber driver is just taking the food and disappearing, and no one ever knows what happened to that food? Uber is not able to say what happened to the food. The person that paid for the food probably is sitting somewhere. Last week we had a very prominent person here in South Africa that ordered food for. They could not get the food and the driver could not be found. So that means the Uber Eats and Uber Courier, they need to do something there with their vetting so that we don't have these undesirable characters. I don't want my food to be carried by someone who's not vetted, because what can they do with my food on the way? So I guess Uber needs to listen to this and deal with such characters, and also take responsibility or put in place some form of insurance that if someone loses their parcel, that parcel is recovered and reimbursed, because they're saying they don't reimburse parcels. Right, I think Mkoma Peter is saying if you manage to talk to the driver, definitely they know them and they could easily find him. Yes, they can find him, but Uber doesn't want you to find the driver. Very crazy. And then Adeline says if Uber does that, it means they're no longer trustworthy. Yes, they're not trustworthy. In fact, guys, this is crazy. I use Uber like crazy, and I don't understand. Right, so let me share my screen with you. I'm not talking things that I'm making up here. So this is my message from Uber, right? Report a serious incident with a driver. So that's Uber. And they say Uber is unable to issue reimbursement for an item, but we're happy to try to facilitate communication between the rider and the driver. The fastest way for a rider to retrieve an item would be to coordinate with the driver directly if possible. I have given them my number. I've given it to Uber. The driver has not called me, and they're still saying I must coordinate it. Thanks for following up. We understand your frustration. Uber is more than happy to facilitate the return of the lost item between riders and drivers, help however we can. But it's not a lost item. I send something through Uber Courier. That's not a lost item. So if I send something through a courier system, it becomes the responsibility of the courier, not me. Driver partners with Uber, drivers partner with Uber as independent contractors, and have all taken action possible from our side at this point. If you believe the driver has your item but is refusing to return it, we recommend formal litigation through contracting the local law enforcement. If you do choose this route, Uber will comply with any formal request for driver information that may be needed to pursue the matter to this end. So this is crazy, guys. I did not lose an item sitting in an Uber. I send an item through Uber Courier. So I didn't lose an item, and they are responsible for whatever happens there, not me. I can't go to court. They must go to court and get my items back. The reason why Uber is able to do this is because they don't lose anything. If Uber was going to go to court and retrieve my item and be responsible, then they would make sure that their drivers are vetted. But there is poor vetting of drivers on Uber, and they must stop this thing that they're doing right now. It's becoming annoying. Lost food, lost parcels. So that portion of Uber is uncontrolled. They must sort it out, and they must make sure that they stop people like him from getting onto the Uber platform. We want only trustworthy people on Uber. That is why Uber is so cheap in South Africa. Like, honestly, guys, when I was in America, I tried to jump on an Uber. You have to be rich to jump on an Uber in America. So if you have honest drivers, they must be paid properly. Then you remove the people that are not supposed to be there on Uber. Then you have these guys getting well paid. In America, for me to travel 60 kilometers on Uber, that is the distance between Pretoria and Johannesburg, is 1,200 rands. In South Africa, when I'm traveling between Johannesburg and Pretoria, which is a distance of about 60 kilometers, I pay no more than 400 or 500 rands. Where the heck is the rest of the 700? So they make that 700 by recruiting these unscrupulous individuals onto the Uber platform. So what we need is proper drivers, well-vetted drivers who are well paid. And then you remove the guys who are not supposed to be on that platform, because Uber cannot be like a taxi system. I expect that from the other systems which are not vetting, which are not international. But Uber must do better in South Africa. They must vet their drivers. They must remove the wrong people, and they must pay the drivers properly. The guys that are there legally, they must be paid legally and properly. If you see someone stealing a parcel, that person is not supposed to be on the Uber platform. They are making our platform so bad. I reported the police. I'm not going to report the police. What I did yesterday is I sent a second parcel. So on the Uber system, they can see that I lost a parcel, and then I send another parcel to the very same address within an hour. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to push this with Uber. I'm not going to push this with police, because I sent a parcel through their courier system. I didn't sit in an Uber and lose something. If that was the case, then I would be responsible. But I'm not responsible. I'm not responsible. Once a parcel is on the Uber courier system, Uber is now responsible, not me. And I'm not going to change my view on this situation. Uber is responsible. And if I'm going to take someone to court, it's Uber that I'm going to take to court, not the driver. Because then I think people should take pictures of the driver and ID number. I have got the correct number of this guy. I saw his face. It's the same guy that is over there. What he did is, after he did the stand, he then went and got another picture and put it there on the trip, and then changed his name. I don't know how that is possible, that someone can change their name on an Uber trip. So when I did the trip to some other guy, then afterwards, after this whole situation, I click and it's another guy now on the profile. Very crazy system, Uber. And they need to sort out their vetting before someone gets killed on South African Uber by a different driver. Right, I think we've covered that. And obviously, after this, I'm going to go out and we're going to look at what's happening on the streets of South Africa on Christmas Day, amazing Christmas Day, 25 December. I know most of you guys are resting and most of the guys are in the rural areas. So we're going to see how Christmas is looking like in South Africa. Now, let's recap. We said President Duma Boko of Botswana has thrown out dozens of Zimbabwean spies who were based in Botswana since the elections. So a lot of these spies have been thrown out. Some of them had to run from Botswana last week after the Botswana intelligence started to hunt them down for deportation to Zimbabwe. So there were a lot of spies that were helping Masisi to rig the elections. And these guys were thrown out this week. And among those is obviously Tinashe Jonas and also Talent Lusere here, who I told yesterday that this guy is Zimbabwe intelligence. And Tinashe Jonas then made claims that he had done work for UDC and they did not pay him. So next time Tinashe Jonas comes in, we want him to describe what he's talking about when he says he did work for Duma Boko and they didn't pay him and they threw him out and he feared rendition. That is why he ran from Botswana. So Tinashe Jonas has officially left Botswana, similar to what Talent Lusere has done. He has also left Botswana. So a lot of other spies have had to run from Botswana. Zimbabwean spies were based over there. But as I said, the biggest spying operation by Zimbabwe is currently in South Africa. where there are hundreds and hundreds of Zimbabwean spies operating in South Africa on a day-to-day basis, spying on Zimbabweans, spying on South Africans, and prominent Zimbabwean people who are based here. Right, I would like to thank all of you and a Merry Christmas. Thank you very much, everyone, for your support. You please order your order now. We've got a special offer. So if you're in South Africa, for every order that you make, we're going to give you a sample. So let me see if I've got a sample here. We're going to give you a sample of this product. Chibabachi product. This is an energy product for guys. We're going to add it on top of your order. So that is enough for 2 weeks. So I normally, most guys don't know what supplements to use. So I'm going to help you guys. If you're in South Africa, if you make an order of Move for the same price, I'm going to throw in 2 of those capsules of energy for you to test. Then you are going to tell me, Kuti, masaladi, aruta say, ndakakwatisa masaladi goreno. I'm responsible for the damage in masaladi akawanda. These days, masaladi akandiona. Anotanga kunzwa pain. Right, I'd like to thank all of you for watching. Musatongwe ne masaladi. I'd like to thank all of you for watching, and please enjoy your Christmas. I'll be later on today showing you what's happening on the streets of South Africa on Christmas Day. Thank you very much, and a good day.